My name is Megan Faust, and I'm the Casey County 4-H agent, and I work for the Casey County Cooperative Extension Service. And I would like to share a few recipes with you today that may help you with cooking with the foods that you're picking up from commodities. So sometimes we get some foods and we're maybe not super familiar with them, and we're not really sure how to prepare them or what to put in with them. And so I'm going to share a few recipes today that will help you with this upcoming box that you're going to be picking up with your food items. So the first thing, a couple of the things that you're going to be getting in your box are dried plums, which are also called prunes, and you're also going to be getting some grape juice. And what's one of the really cool things is that you can reconstitute dried fruit. And that's exactly what I'm doing with the prunes, because I have a recipe that calls for plums. And so what I've been doing is I actually have been soaking the prunes in the grape juice. And so here in just a few minutes, I'm going to chop them up and then put them in a recipe. But you probably want to know, what are we going to be fixing? So we're going to be making some plum bread. So I'm going to angle the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. And then we're going to be fixing this together. Okay, so the first thing that our recipe calls for, so first I didn't get to tell you, so we're going to be needing, it's been a while since I've put a video together. So we're going to be needing we're going to get 1 cup of our prunes. We need 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. We're at 1 cup of white sugar, 1/2 cup of butter, which is also a stick of butter, a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 2 large eggs, 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to have a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/3 cup of plain yogurt, and then a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and drain off the prunes, and I'm going to save this grape juice just so we're not putting it all down the drain. All right, so I have my prunes, also my plums. And one thing I did forget to say is that I have preheated the oven to 350 degrees, and I did make sure I washed my hands because we've got a lot of sickness going around, so we want to make sure that we're not putting our germs into what we're fixing. So our recipe, the first step, it does say preheat the oven to 350 degrees. We're going to spray a 9x5-inch loaf pan with cooking spray or line with parchment paper. I'm going to spray with cooking spray. And we are set to go. Next, it says that we need to chop the plums, and then we're going to sprinkle them with flour and put them in another bowl. The reason we do that is because when you're cooking with dried fruit, I think just fruit in general, a lot of times it'll sink to the bottom of the pan, the muffin pan, whatever you are putting your baked food in. And so we want to make sure that once we chop them, we are going to toss them in flour. And so then they're less likely to then sink to the bottom of our bread. Okay, I've chopped these up. One thing you want to be make sure of is that even though they said that they were pitted prunes, I actually found a few pits in them. So just make sure that we don't have any pits in there because we don't want to break any teeth off. So I'm going to put these in a separate bowl. And then I'm going to toss with 1 tablespoon flour. All right. And then we'll set this aside. And next, it says that we're gonna beat white sugar, butter, and our vanilla in a large bowl. It says with an electric mixer. Not everybody has an electric mixer. There's nothing wrong with just using a wooden spoon. It just means you gotta use some of your arm muscles. But we're gonna add, we've got our butter in here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the microwave for just a couple seconds to soften it up a bit. And then we'll add in our other ingredients. All right, now we're gonna add our cup of sugar. And then we have our half teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to use the back of the spoon to then start mixing this together. And you're just pushing it against the bowl to where you can incorporate the sugar into the butter. And it starts to come together to where you can't tell that the sugar is separate from the butter. All right, there we go. So then we're going to beat in the eggs. So we're gonna use our hand to beat in the eggs. And I am always a fan of spatulas, so making sure that you scrape off your spoon to make sure that everything is well incorporated. There we go. All right, so now we are going to do this in a separate bowl. I keep missing all my bowls. We are going to add in the rest of our flour and then our salt and baking soda. So a lot of times when you have recipes, you have your dry ingredients and you measure those separately from your wet ingredients and then you incorporate them together. We have 1 cup. And we have half of that. Next, we're going to add a half teaspoon of salt. 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a whisk to mix this together and kind of break up any of those clumps that might be in the flour. We're all set. Our next step says that we're going to stir this into the egg mixture, alternating with the yogurt until the mixture is nice and smooth. So we need a 1/3 cup of our yogurt. And so I just have plain non-fat Greek yogurt. And this is actually a staple in our house. We use our Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. And it gives you a little bit more protein and it's lower in calories and fat. So this is something that's very easy for us to add to this because we always have it. So I'm going to add a little bit of the dry. Mix it together. I got butter on my spoon. And it's okay to be a little messy when you cook. Make sure to scrape those sides so we're getting all of the flour incorporated. Add in a little bit of our yogurt. A little bit more of our dry. Use our cute little spatula to scrape off our spoon and then also get the rest out of our measuring cup. And the rest of our flour. One of the things I love about cooking is also, not only because I love eating, but I love using all of our bowls. All of these bowls were hand-me-downs from grandmothers, great aunts, and so it's just really cool to be cooking with dishes that they cooked with probably decades and decades ago. So this is nice and smooth and well incorporated. Then what we're going to do is we're going to fold in our plums, quote unquote plums, which are prunes. And when it says folding, it means that I'm going to use another spatula and we're just going to gently put it into the batter so we're not going to be messing with the fruit too much. So just fold it in. So it seems like it's well incorporated and they're all kind of mixed in there. Looks so good. So we're gonna put this in our prepared pan and then we're gonna sprinkle the top with brown sugar. It's gonna get a beautiful, tasty, sugary crust. like I said, it's okay to be a little messy. And I bet if you didn't have a loaf pan, you could put this in probably about anything, maybe even a muffin pan and do muffins as opposed to just a loaf of bread. One more scrape of our bowl. One of the things that I was, I guess, trained to do is to not leave anything behind in the bowl, which is why I love spatulas. So we're gonna do a good scrape around the bowl to make sure we haven't left any of our batter, because we want all of that to go in the pan. And then I'm gonna use my little scraper again to kind of straighten out the top of our loaf. Make sure it looks nice and neat, even though I made a little mess there. That's okay. It doesn't change how it tastes. All right. And so last but not least, like I said, we're going to add in, it says a 1/4 cup, so a 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And if you look, I have my brown sugar looks like 2 different colors because I have light brown sugar and then I also put dark brown sugar in there and I refilled. So there's a little bit of mixture of both brown sugars. I'm sure it'll be just fine. Like I said, it's not going to change the taste. That brown sugar is going to make it taste so good with a nice crust on top. So I'm going to gently pack that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to then use my hand to then sprinkle it because I don't want to have one big clump everywhere. Oh my goodness gracious, this looks so good. All right, so we have our prepared plum bread. We're gonna put that in our preheated oven, which is at 350 degrees. We forgot to take our pizza pan out. And this is going to bake for 45 to 50 minutes. So it's a long bake, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure that we put a toothpick in or a cake tester to make sure that it comes out clean, to make sure it's done. And then we're gonna let it set for 15 minutes before we take it out of the pan to let it cool completely. So into the oven it goes. The timer is set. Woo! The timer is set, and we will see you in a little over an hour. Stay tuned. And here we have our plum bread. The top part kind of fell a little bit. It did take longer than an hour to bake, so definitely make sure that you check it to make sure that it's cooked all the way through before you take it out. But it looks delicious, and I'm going to take a bite, and I hope you all try this recipe and enjoy as much as I have. Bye.